Transformation, your Healthy Self podcast. This is your co host and moderator, Kate Archibald. Really excited to be with everybody today. Beautiful Thursday morning. And yeah, today is a really cool day. Um, I got a lot of family with birthdays. It's our parents' anniversary. It's pretty rad. Reagan and I both have kids that have birthdays today. So
Yep.
it is a unique day.
Olive's 2 today.
Yeah, she turned 2.
Fireball. So Cade's daughter's 2, and his other kids are mellow. They're pretty chill. I mean, they're driven, but Olive's just she's more like Cade. Watch out. That's all I gotta say is wake up world.
Yeah.
She's awesome. And then our parents have 50 years of marriage today that we're celebrating. And my son turned 15. So what a day.
Yeah, it's a really cool day. Bright day. Beautiful weather in St. George. Oh dang, look at Dom's spread.
Yeah, we're getting ready to go for it.
All right. Nice. I'd show you all of our goods. Anyone out there, do you guys don't do Elf on the Shelf. Your kids are too old, but I did we got a Elf on the Shelf going on at our house. Oh, you do?
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Ours, they were stringing up Thanos from Avengers. He's
Uh-huh.
hanging from the ceiling fan in our living room. It's
I
pretty
love that
awesome.
stuff. I'd really feel guilty though the next day when I'd wake up and I forget and the kids are like, "Hey, the elf didn't move." I was like, uh,
You must
"Where?
not have been good
Yeah."
enough yesterday,
But,
kids.
hey, I can't watch you all the time. I guess you guys should feel guilty.
What'd you do wrong?
Dad, yeah. Well,
Well, yeah, today we're gonna be diving into some cool topics. Um, yeah, it's just Reagan and I today. No, we are the special guests.
yeah, I feel pretty special. How about you, Cade? To
I
be a
feel great. Yeah.
we're guests on our own show. This is awesome. But
Love it.
we've got a lot that we prepared for you guys, but we're also really happy to take questions. As we come to the end of the decade of 2020, the year of 10 years, we are in the midst of one of the biggest breakthroughs in healthcare and personal transformation that I've ever seen. I've seen more people commit to their health than I've ever seen. I've also seen more people drop out and just kind of give up and tap out in life. And so those of you who are on this, congratulations. You are one of the probably 7% that's really fighting for a bigger, better future. So we're here and we're going to share with you some really impressive ways of getting there. So where you're at right now, just take a minute and check in with yourself, take a couple deep breaths, and just really start to visualize the journey that you've been on to get to where you are now, because I know many of you, and Cade, many of our patients on here and our Go Wellness collaborators, and just so many cool relationships we have with you guys. And so think about all the transformations through challenges that you've gone through this year, and feel free to plug them in and share those with us. But then let's just take a minute and do a little vision quest and look into the future and say, wow, what will 2021 hold? Because I love the statement. I've heard Peter Diamandis get credit for this. I've even heard Abraham Lincoln get credit for it, Teddy Roosevelt. But it's the best way to create the future, or the best way to predict the future, is to create it yourself. And you've heard that quote. I'm sure you've heard me say it for years, Cade.
I love it.
Yeah, it's a really cool quote. So that's what we're going
Oh
to be
yeah.
doing today. Is we'll show you some ways you can predict your future. What
Love
do you
it.
think of that, kid?
No, I think when you start visualizing and start looking at what you want your health to look like, or your life, or and I think this can apply to anything in life. I think it's really important to have a strong foundation on what you want your health to look like. Because if you don't have your health, man, it doesn't matter how much money you have, how many like friends you have, whatever. It just does not like life is not as enjoyable and meaningful as it can be when you do feel good.
Right.
Because it's, even being around people that make you feel good, it's hard to feel good if you're sick or if you're in pain, all those things. And so if you can really have a good vision for your health, I think it opens up the doorway to whatever your vision is, career or family or spiritual, whatever that looks like. I think health really should be one of those main pillars in people's vision and goal.
Yes, sir. And so, should we give them a little motivation today? I'll, uh,
Yeah.
and I couldn't agree more, Cade. Just real quick, not to go on too big of a tangent, but I hit a deer on the way to our parents' 50th wedding celebration down in St. George. And I didn't think anything big. It put a good dent in my car. And I was like, my wife, she got pretty instant whiplash and she was tight right out of the gates. But my shoulder just kept getting worse and worse and worse. And to the point where it'd lock up when I try to pick it up. And last night, yesterday afternoon around 4:30, right before our health challenge show, Steve injected stem cells into it. And so I was like, we got
Oh,
to
nice.
treat it. And the stem cells, so stem cells have these cytokines and growth factors that agitate the healing sometimes. So there's a lot of remodeling that goes on. So the more severe the injury is, typically you'll have like 24 hours of pretty throbby pain. And when you said, if you don't have your health, nothing's meaningful. Well, last night I had family in town and I'm pacing around my house and my wife's like, don't you wish you did pain pills right now? I'm like, no, but it's pain, but I couldn't focus, on a conversation, you have to walk with me. And luckily
Yeah.
today it's so much better. So
So it was throbbing really bad.
it was a good one. Yeah.
Nice. So you got stem cells yesterday. I had Ken do an IV for me yesterday.
Oh, nice. Look
I
at that.
had to my skin's just the winter months change, and if I'm not like pristine on what I'm eating, my fingers just flare up. So I had to. I've been cheating a little too much with all the holiday parties apparently, and so had to do some repair.
When the skin flares up, it's the gut, your skin,
Yep.
outer manifestation. So Cade's busted.
Yep. And I got my Repair Vite, Clear Vite right here.
Oh, good. Look at that. All right. Well, cool. Well, so what you guys know is we do walk the talk. We're, believe it or not, we don't always follow every single thing that we share with you guys, but we do our very best. So let's jump in and we're going to talk about some cool studies. But I wanted to start off by telling you two risks that are going on right now. I know that we're coming up to the winter solstice. And I love the winter solstice because we're almost to the darkest day of the year. So that's when our days get very short, our nights get long, and it's a really good time to cultivate a lot of wisdom. But one of the things that can happen is we can get depleted in vitamin D. And so recently I had the opportunity to submit some data on vitamin D to the Utah Health Department. And we're looking for creative ways to help people who do not want the vaccine for one reason or another, whether they feel it's not safe, don't think that's the right solution, whatever it is. We're looking, I'm really pushing this thing called medical freedom. And I don't know about you, but I think in 2020 we have given up more medical freedom than I've ever seen in my life. And part of it's necessary. We're trying to navigate this brand new thing, but I think one thing we need to be aware of is that alternatives need to be brought to the stage. And so here's some of the studies I presented to them, and hopefully it gives you some awareness to make sure your vitamin D levels are where they need to be. I did a lab review yesterday, Caden, and this patient of mine, his vitamin D levels, he's a super well-known artist, super famous. And he's like, his health has just been falling apart the last 5 years. And his vitamin D levels were 18.
Ooh.
So I was like, okay, we got work to do, but But if you look at vitamin D, there's been an interesting amount of research that's come out of if you look at the Pew Research Center, what they found is that right now, 50% of the population are willing to receive the vaccine. And I'm not telling you guys what to do on the vaccine, but if you do get the vaccine, you need to get thymosin alpha 1, which is a peptide for immunity. So it will help keep your lymphocytes where they need to be and activated. And the other thing you need to add into that is vitamin D, which we'll talk about here. So one of the things that vitamin D does is it does regulate your T regulatory lymphocytes. And it's very safe, very effective, easy to test. And most of yours, if you don't have any, any kind of context around having a vitamin D level at 18, you want to run your vitamin D levels closer to about 80 right now. We like our patients to be between about 60 and 100 is a really good place to be with your vitamin D. And so here's a study that came out of Spain. And Cade, you may have heard me talk about this study, but one of the things that they found is that low levels of vitamin D, it will significantly increase your risk of pneumonia or upper respiratory tract infections. If you are infected with COVID-19, vitamin D functions to increase T regulatory and lymphocytes, which are the immune system's major defense against viral infections in general. And so we look at these on labs all the time. We look at lymphocytes, neutrophils, basophils, eosinophils, and monocytes. And then we look at your vitamin D levels. And those are some pretty core immune tests that we want to do. The other study that we found out of Spain, what they did is they found that patients admitted to the ER, they did a vitamin D test on about 300 patients. And what they found is that in these 300 patients, they said, okay, we're going to take half of you. And where they tested everyone's vitamin D, and every single patient that was admitted to the hospital had low vitamin D. Is that surprising at all for you, Cade?
It's not surprising at all, but it is alarming.
It's alarming, isn't it? Yeah. And, we all go on lockdown. We're in our houses. We, go outside. And if you got a mask on when you're outside, that's crazy because there's no skin exposure to the sun. So at least you're getting outside and you'll get some in your eyes, some nice melopsin activation from looking at the sun with your eyes, but you're not going to get the vitamin D you need. And so of these patients that they admitted into the hospital, this was in Cordoba, Spain. They found that the patients who had been given IVs, so they did intravenous infusions of about 100,000 IUs of vitamin D. So that's a huge
Whoa.
amount. And what they found is within 4 to 5 days, the patients who had the vitamin D, they got their vitamin D levels up. It's a different type of vitamin D, Cade. Now it's called calcifediol. So it's you can use a little higher quantities than just like.
Got it. I was thinking that is intense.
Yeah, it's if you wouldn't do that much with a cholecalciferol, but what they found is that 97% of the patients who were treated with vitamin D, they left the hospital very low risk. Only one was hospitalized after that, and so that's pretty impressive in this overall study. So I look at this as one of the most important things you can do to your health. So just wanted to share that as like a fun little thing. So vitamin D, and then as your vaccines come in, and for those of you who decide to take action on those and get it, I'm still skeptical to, if you want my opinion, I'm happy to give it to you, but I don't want to, I don't want this to turn into a political platform where we end up with people on my front lawn. Too close to the Capitol to speak too loudly and too many people on this, but I would say get thymosin alpha 1 and get your body's vitamin D levels up with vaccines. Because, Kay, do you remember that study with the flu vaccine, influenza 3 years ago in the military? And
Yeah, I remember you mentioning it to me.
And I'll just give you a refresher. So 30,000 military personnel. They looked at that many who received the flu vaccine versus the ones who didn't. And the ones who received the flu vaccine and got sicker more frequently and missed more days on duty. They just had a harder time tolerating all the things that were coming at their immune system. So it
Wow.
was a massive study in 2017, if you guys want to look at that. And so one of the ways you can improve your outcomes with vaccines is using the peptide thymosin alpha 1. So, and maybe you could plug that in there so people know.
Yeah, and added it to the chat box here. Thymosin alpha 1, vitamin D3, and K2. Ruth actually mentioned her vitamin D level was at 72. She's got COVID. She still got pretty sick. It says thyroiditis. I'm assuming she had thyroiditis along with that. So that's obviously going to make it a little more challenging on the body. But now it's resolved. Good. Glad to hear that.
Awesome. Well, Ruth, you made it through. Congrats. And if you have cofactors, so if you have thyroiditis or if you have insulin resistance, these are things that, are going to be something you'll want to look at. And there's a whole bunch of areas that we can touch on. And so as we look at kind of our life and as we're doing this kind of mapping, one of the reasons I wanted to bring this up early in the conversation is there's a lot of ways that we can be taken out. And one of the things that we're trying to do is mitigate the impact that we have of infections, of chemical trauma that we have in our lives. We want to mitigate the emotional traumas that we have best we can, and then the physical traumas. And so what we're going to talk about for just a minute is some interesting concepts called the Hayflick. And so this was some of the studies. Cade, should I share my screen? And some of this is, some of the stuff I put together for Go Wellness. Should we share?
Yeah, I think that would be helpful just so people can see the resources. We did get a question come into the chat box here on do you remember the name? Do you recall the name of the military study on the flu shots?
I don't, but I do remember it is in our immune master class. And so I don't know who asked that, but if you are enrolled in our immune master class, it's all in there. And so I can
Cool.
find.
Maybe Anne can even just post that if people are interested in joining that. I'll do a little searching as well.
Yeah, very fascinating study there. And I actually have references. I've got 25 references that I can pull up too. For those of you, I know most people on here are really nerdy. We love science. We love to hear the other side of science versus just what mainstream media feeds us. And so we want to look skeptically at both sides. What I'm saying, you've got to vet it out and decide on your own. But I can tell you there's a lot of data behind those things I shared with you guys. So, all right, so let's talk about longevity. Because if you think about what's going to take us out, Yersinia. So I did some of my biggest research in my undergraduate work. It was on Yersinia, so on the bubonic plague, and that thing was so deadly. I mean, it killed a third of Europe's population. It ravaged seaside villages. They started to quarantine the ships that would come in. But yeah, it was these little fleas that would climb on the backs of rats, and then the rats would climb off the ship and then go out, and rats reproduce pretty darn fast, and so it would just completely destroy entire civilizations. And that's, the bubonic plague is one of those plagues that led to some incredible historical events, like the Gutenberg press came out just right during that time. That's when Martin Luther had his proclamation. He said, hey, we want to be freed from the church, and we want all people to be able to read the Bible. And so that was big. People started losing faith in priests because the priests would die from the bubonic plague, and they'd say, well, if God can't help us, I'm going to start looking elsewhere. And so a very interesting time in history. And I think COVID might have just the impact that we need to help move us forward in our thinking when it comes to health. And so let's talk about longevity, because one of the areas that I find is there's a mindset that comes along with people who really are looking to expand their health. And Dan Sullivan, I just spent the day with him on Tuesday, a virtual day, doing coaching. I've had about, let's see, 50 hours of coaching in the last 6 days. So my brain's been completely taken, dumped out, and put back on my head, which is great. But Dan Sullivan's just an awesome collaborative partner. And he came and got treatments. Him and Babs come twice a year, except minus this year. They had to miss April, and then they were coming out in November, but they're in Canada, so they can't leave. But when Dan came and got treatments, he said he was able to take 10 years off his telomere test. So telomeres are what predict your biological age. It's one of the markers you can use to see how old you are. And then he said he improved his VO2 max by 25% and his bone density improved 20%. So let's talk about what he did. Because Dan Sullivan, okay, do you remember how old Dan Sullivan wants to live to be?
Yeah, of course I do. 156, right?
156. So
That's where he can live through like a full decade or a full century.
whole century. Yeah, he wants to live from 2000 to 2100. And he was born in, I believe it was 1946. And so you have to do the math for me on that. Maybe it's 44. But yeah, so that's his goal. So if you think about the chances of getting to 100, his chances of getting to 100 are 3%. Now he's 76, soon to be 77 in May. His birthday is May 19th, the day before my birthday. And so he's 76 and a half. And there's a good chance that he can get there. But once again, there's things that can take us out. I talked about the bubonic plague. We got COVID-19 right now. There's other diseases that can really stop our progress when it comes to health. Half of the people, chances of getting to 115, this is another interesting one, is 1 in 100 million. And so Dan Sullivan knows he's going to need some new medicines. So one of the things we have him on is this peptide that I'm taking right currently as well, called Epitalon. And Epitalon is a peptide that promotes longevity, and it helps. It's a telomerase. Can you guys see that? Let's see right there.
There you go. Yeah.
Epitalon. And so this is a really fascinating peptide because it actually can help lengthen the telomeres. And there's been studies out of Russia where they find that just by using Epitalon, 2 cycles of it, even if you use it early on in life, as long as you don't get taken out by like mountain biking with Cade. This is a picture of Cade in Sedona, Arizona. And he's like, I'm going to go down that way. I'm like, there's not a trail there, Cade. And he's like, nope, I got it. And so Cade just goes down these like straight down crazy cliffs. Really fun mountain biking with him. But I want to live to be 100. I think Cade's, I don't, what goes on in your mind before you take those crazy drops? You're just more like, I'm going to make it, and you don't think about the impact if you don't make it.
Well, one thought does come to my head, like, what's the worst thing that could happen?
Yep.
So I do play that out sometimes, especially if it's like really gnarly. Then, then I gotta play it out. Like, okay, could I die? And then I'll take it out, and then all right, realistically, worst case scenario, I roll out of it and I get a couple scrapes and bruises, and I'm okay.
Okay.
And that's how I justify it.
All right. I don't know about you guys, but I mean, we're gonna have to. Could I die? Well, I think I could just roll out of it. Yeah. I've seen what Cade goes down, and you can literally die. I've almost died. I think most of my near-death experiences were with Cade. So yeah, that's one way we can get taken out, right? Here's some interesting stats too. Right now, half of the people in the United States and Europe between the ages of 50 and 74 suffer from mobility impairment, excuse me. So they can't move their bodies. So that's a big deal. And so we're going to talk about some ways of, putting on muscle mass, having better balance, making sure that your metabolism's working properly, because it's not just I want to lose weight. It needs to be the fact that, the excess weight that I have is creating inflammation in my body, or my insulin resistance is creating damage and disease. And here's another one. About a third have hypertension. 1 in 10 are fighting heart disease. which is crazy. And then by 2025, 50% of people between the ages of 50 and 74 in Europe and America will be pre-diabetic or diabetic. So these are big things that can take us out. And so part of why I'm on Epitalon is because I plan on doing these cycles because it can actually lengthen your life by 7 years. And if you can if you can increase your telomere tells, the tells on the end of your DNA by just 7 years, you remove 50% of chronic diseases. And the Epitalon works right on the pineal gland. So it's great for sleep. It's great for regulating circadian rhythms. And it's just one of those peptides that, it's been well studied, well documented, not always easy to find. But it's one that will, we've seen people's hair, kind of the graying start to go out. And I'm using this with polygonum. So hopefully some of my grays will go away, even though my wife likes them. Don't tell her I'm doing this science experiment, but I want them to go away.
So you're using polygonum and Epitalon to try to get rid of the gray? Oh, I need that for my beard.
Yeah, her Shao Wu.
Plucked like one gray hair 4 years ago, and then all of a sudden it all turned gray.
Man, don't they get mad? They're like, it's like an aspen tree grove, the aspen, the root systems are all connected. That's what I'm noticing on grays. I got like aspen grove. So anyway, and aspen grove on the chest hair, which is weird.
Hey,
You guys,
had a couple comments and questions come
okay.
in just as we're going through this. So Chris, thanks for sharing this. New study showing hyperbaric oxygen therapy lengthening telomeres.
Yeah.
Great therapy. Yeah,
HBOT.
we want to get some HBOTs in our clinics. It's just the space and the logistics behind it. But yeah, those are awesome treatments.
Yeah.
And then let's see, Julie, actually, I'm going to share what Julie said.
Oh, cool.
She's being forced to take the COVID vaccines since she's in the healthcare field. So she just asked for some little more direction on how she can protect herself. So I mentioned just in the text vitamin D with thymosin alpha 1, the peptide K2, but any other advice you can provide there?
Yeah, so the thymosin alpha 1 is a vaccine adjunct, and this peptide is what naturally occurs in the body. It's the same thing that your thymus gland is secreting. And so one of the things you'll find is that some vaccines actually have thymosin alpha 1 in it because it helps the vaccines work better. Now, from what I can tell, this is not included in any of the vaccines that are going out for COVID, but there's a lot of studies. If you just plug in vaccine adjunct on thymosin alpha 1, you'll see it there. And so essentially what some of the research shows on thymosin alpha 1, and this is Julie. Hey, Julie, glad you're on here. But some of the studies find that it helps with autoimmune disease. If you have any kind of lupus, thyroid issue, anything like that, thymosin alpha 1 it can be really helpful. And then we're also finding in our patients who have elevation of lymphocytes, which the T lymphocytes are really the purpose of the vaccine is to stimulate your T lymphocytes so that they recognize that viral infection so that you become immune to it because you're building up antibodies. Well, the thymosin alpha 1 will help you build up that ability to recognize it in your both innate and adaptive immune response. So was that too wordy, or did that make sense?
I think that made great sense.
Okay, so please, if that didn't make sense, let me know there, Julie. But yeah, I mean, a lot of us are going to be, if you want to keep your job, especially if you're in the healthcare field, that's where these vaccines are being deployed first. So, yeah, okay.
Best place to buy it, thymosin alpha 1 and Epitalon wants to get taking that before the vaccine. And she also said it made sense. So good job.
That's a first.
Thanks, Julie.
So that, Julie, it is, all these peptides are prescription based. And so we use Wells Pharmacy to get thymosin alpha 1, Epitalon. as well. You can get these on the internet, the black market. I don't recommend it because they're typically peptide fragments. So it's not the whole sequence that you're getting, which may mitigate some of the impact, and there are some risks there. So if you'd like, all you need to do is call the office, and we can do a phone consultation and get this out to you as quickly as possible.
Yeah, you can call whatever location's nearest you. You can just call the group number 801-872-8699. That links you to all of our 5 locations, and then just request a phone consultation for peptides.
Yeah.
Unless you can make it into the office, that would be ideal.
Yeah.
But I know some of you are not in our geographical area, as well as if just doing virtual makes more sense, great.
Any other? I didn't see
Awesome.
any other questions. So I got a little challenge for everyone. Oh, Julie's in Albuquerque. Oh, good. Great stuff
Awesome.
here. So Chona can get you a prescription there very easily, Julie, and we could actually let's have Anne Marie call her today, Cade.
Great.
All right, guys. So here's something that I think is very interesting. So remember how we talked about mobility? You know, mobility is one of these things. Your balance and your strength is what can predict healthy outcomes. So putting on muscle mass has been a goal of mine this year. We've been doing the 100-day challenge. And Bev's on this. Hey, Bev and I had a goal to gain weight. The other people on there had a goal to lose weight. We've had people lose 18 pounds. Congratulations there. We've had people, just change their mindset, change their thinking. I know Christy, you're on here too. She's done a lot of breathing work. We've got just some incredible efforts that were put in by so many people, but Bev and I were actually able to put on muscle. And it's really important because if you're thinking about living a long, healthy life, nobody wants to live to be 100 if the last 10 years of your life you've got dementia and you can't move your body. I mean, that does not seem like a great way to live. You basically get to watch TV all day. Shoot me now is to borrow a phrase from my wife, but there's a test that you can do. It's called the sitting rising test. And this test is one of the most predictive tests for aging and disease. And so here's a study where they took 5,180 people. And what they found is that the people who, they did a study of 5,180 people. And they found that the people who were able to sit and rise, the ones who had a perfect score, they didn't die. They had a really good prognosis for longevity. And so the sit rising test, what it is you sit on the floor barefoot, cross-legged, and then you lean forward. And so if you guys can do this right now, tell us what it's like. So you lean forward, and if you can get up in one move. So basically when you're leaning forward, it feels really weird because it's like your legs are scissors and you got to push yourself up. But if you can lean forward and hop up, then that's great. Middle-aged person, usually we need one hand. If you get a kid to do it, I can do this most of the time still. Have you ever tried this test, kid?
Mute. Sorry, I was on mute. Yeah,
Are you
it's
familiar with this one?
yeah.
Okay. Yeah, it's a fun one. So yeah, you guys try it out real quick. Just sit with your legs crossed and lean forward, put your hands out, and you got to use a little momentum. So
Nice. Hurt but did it.
hurt but did. Okay. I can hear some knees popping.
I heard some cracking back there. Good job, everybody.
We're feeling your pain. Yes, it hurts, but you can do it. And then, if you need to put one hand on the ground, that's fine. Elderly person usually needs to get on one knee and then go up. If you have knee issues or hip issues, don't try this until you get those things fixed. But yeah, they found that people who had less than perfect CERT scores or the sit rising test, they passed away much sooner. And one study shows that of the people who had a hip fracture after the age of 65, 50% will die within 6 months, 50%. So once again, this is why it's really important. One reason we wanted to talk about putting on muscle today is for that very reason. So interesting test there. All right. So Hayflick, one of the things when you're looking at your cells, as you're thinking, how can I really maximize life, is look at this concept called the Hayflick movement limit, which shows that your cells divide by about 40 to 50 passages, and then the telomeres start to shorten. So one of the reasons I'm using Epitalon is to keep those telomeres long, so that my cells, your DNA is like photocopies. And so you have one cell, and then maybe like your stomach cell lives for 2 days, and then photocopying its DNA on another cell through your RNA transcription factors. And then that new cell, it's a stem cell that takes on that expression of a stomach cell, for example. Or your skin cells, 5 to 7 days, you get that perfect copy. But then after about 40 to 50 passages, that if you've ever put paper on a copy machine, it starts to get a little fuzzy. And that's when disease starts to manifest. And that's when we start to break down and function. And so this is where, just adding that little bit of life on the end of your telomeres can help you remove 50% of chronic diseases, and it just by adding 7 years of life on your telomeres. So that will increase both your health span and your lifespan. It's one of the few things that we know of that can do this. So pretty fascinating there. Okay, so everyone, hopefully you did the CERTS test, and let us know how that went. All right. Okay, any questions so far, kid?
No, doing good.
Okay, so we're going to shift gears just a little bit. And how many of you are looking at your life and you're saying, man, uh, I'm in holiday mode, and people are, I've got challenges ahead of me. I've got some big plans for 2021. I don't want to get stuck in that trap of, going out and eating foods that I didn't want to eat, or, having, more stress than I want to have. But how many of you would love to mitigate that? And so I'm going to kind of share with you a couple studies that might give you a little motivation and hopefully help you see how healthy you are. Many of you, you probably think, oh man, I could do so much better. But let's, I'm going to share with you a couple studies that I think are pretty interesting as we start, kind of creating a bigger mindset for the future. Here's some things you can look at. So I'll share my screen with you. And sorry for those of you who are driving. You can't see any of this, but I do try to work with my auditory as well. So here's what they found: a healthy lifestyle. This study was published in Preventative Medicine. And what the title of this study is it's the combined effects of healthy lifestyle behaviors on all-cause mortality. Systematic review and meta-analysis. And so what they did is, this was in 2012, 15 international studies. So they took all these, a meta-analysis is when they take multiple peer-reviewed studies and they put all the data together to get some indication of how these studies all relate to overall mortality. And what they found is that this included over 500,000 participants, found that over half of premature deaths were due to unhealthy lifestyle factors. So this is pretty interesting. As you start creating this new vision of yourself for the future, one of the things I'll ask you guys to do, what are some of your lifestyle factors that might be unhealthy? And so they found that, some of these are poor diet. How many of you could eat better? Inactivity. How many of you would like to have more activity in your life? Obesity. Even being a little bit obese can have an impact on your ability to live a long, healthy life. Excessive alcohol intake and smoking. These are some of the things. So a lot of people, what they found is that just by changing your lifestyle, here's another one. We're talking a lot about 7 years today. This study was published by the Health Affairs in 2017. And the title of this is The Population Health Benefits of a Healthy Lifestyle. Life expectancy increased and onset of disability delayed. So they found that people 50 and older who were normal weight, had never smoked, and drank alcohol in moderation lived on average 7 years longer. When they say never smoked, if you tried a cigarette, you've still never smoked. If you've been, you smoked for a couple years, then you've smoked. But that just by having that, that's a pretty simple life. Keep your weight normal. Don't smoke, don't drink, alcohol in moderation, 7 years. So there's another way. We've given you a way to add 14 years onto your lifespan today. Do you think it's worth listening to this, Cade, just by 14 years?
Just a little bit, yeah.
So some great data here. Or it's like, I'm gonna exercise every day. Is that cake? Yeah, there's distractions out there that can pull you off. So how many people think that they are healthy? And this is kind of an interesting thing to look at, because every time I run my labs, I'm surprised at what I find. I'm surprised at some of the people. I read their labs. I'm like, wow, you're a professional athlete and your inflammation is through the roof. You got to slow down. But here's a study that was done by NPR. They took a poll, and what they found, this was 3,000 adults, but they found 75% of Americans say they eat healthy despite evidence to the contrary. So I'm a big believer in reality. I think there's nothing like a little accountability to help you get in touch with reality. But one of the questions they asked, they said, how healthy would you consider your eating habits to be? That was it. And 75% ranked their diets as good, very good, or excellent. And so what's the truth? Well, 80% of Americans fail to eat the recommended amounts of fruits and vegetables. This is probably not you guys, but some of us, I think we could all always improve, do a little better. Here's another study just to kind of answer that. And is this you, Cade, is this you working out in the gym there?
There it is.
There's, yeah.
Just getting some killer quad workout there.
Real full range of motion, not distracted at all. But yeah,
Get my Instagram in for the day.
yeah, this study was published in the British Medical Journal, and this was where they surveyed people in America and in Europe, and what they found is only 3% of U.S. citizens follow good health advice. 3%. So it was a 153,000 person study that was sponsored by the CDC. So this was not Europeans. This was only Americans. Sorry, there's another one that's got Europeans in it. And they found that only 3% of Americans are living a healthy lifestyle. So what are the confines? What did they identify it as? Well, what they identified as moderate or vigorous exercise for at least 150 minutes a week. So that's like 20 minutes a day, a little over 20 minutes a day on average. No problem. A healthy diet score, being in the top 40% of healthy eating index. And even the healthy eating index, I have some disagreements with how they put that together. It's very simple, but just being in the top 40%. Number 3, body fat percentage of under 20% for men and under 30% for women. Not smoking. I guess that's still a thing. Moderate to no alcohol consumption. So that's it. Those are healthy eating. 3% of Americans fit that criteria. So I want to congratulate you guys, because so many of you on this, I know you guys your lifestyle is so clean and you do such a good job at this. And so the beautiful thing is you guys have already put on 7 years onto your life just by that lifestyle habits that you have. And you're one of the 3%, 97% of people failed when they actually asked them the detailed questionnaire. So here's some of what I believe, right now more than ever. There's Cade. This was our pictures at the Great Salt Lake. And if you guys, by the way, if you guys have not looked at our new website, check it out. There's some very cool pictures on there. It looks really good. So here's what I believe more than anything. I believe health is needed now more than ever. We're in a pandemic, so we can't be easy. We can't go soft on health. We can't leave it up to chance. I believe health, it's not a destination, and disease never sleeps. And so these are some of the out of my new book that I'm writing. You guys are getting a little some of the concepts that I'll be sharing with you. Dying at an old age, if we're going to die at an old age, I want you to die young and healthy at a very old age. And so I think premature mortality is your biggest threat from dying at an old age. Premature mortality is when we have those chronic diseases. And today we've shared with you some very simple ways. You've got to own it, you've got to live it, you've got to be it. So your wellness upgrade is all about you owning it, living it, and being it. And then the one thing I see that is needed in ways that we've never imagined is we've got to simplify the complexity in health, and that helps you stay motivated and on your game. And so those are some things that I think will really transform the way that you live and the way that you're thinking. So as we kind of come to a conclusion here, one of the things that we've talked about, just as we go back to the beginning of this, hopefully you guys have had a fascinating journey through some longevity. We talked about vitamin D, we talked about increasing your body's ability to handle the vaccine and have a better outcome from the vaccine. The worst thing that would happen is if you got the vaccine and it did nothing for you. And so, or has some negative side effects, which we know that, people, if you have allergies, they're saying, hey, wait, we don't know everything to this. But one of the things you can do is add in thymosin alpha-1. We talked about longevity, increasing your longevity. Tip number one I gave you is do not mountain bike with Cade, because physical traumas, we could die really quick. And then it doesn't matter how much Epitalon, even if my telomeres and I'm like a 20-year-old dude biologically, I could get taken out like that. So sorry, Cade, you're on your own.
Well,
Now,
but if you can't live, what's the point of living?
there you go.
You gotta feel that oomph.
Yeah. So I do about what would you say, Cade? 95% of what you do. I just get off on those burly sections and film Cade, and I'm there as the medic crew, but Cade never left, so it's impressive. But yeah. Oh, go ahead.
I love what Chris just said. Being unhealthy impacts your loved ones because they will have to take care of you. Unhealthy is selfish. I
Thank you.
appreciate that.
And Chris, you guys know Chris has been on our show. He's a biohacker. I mean, his neural pathways, I've never seen somebody transform their brain the way Chris has. And so, Chris, thanks so much for sharing that. So true. We only think about our little selves. Oh, what about me? I got to be healthy. I got to be strong. Well, it's like, well, do you know how much impact it has on your family member's life when you're not healthy? I mean, think about the future. If it's motivating for you, how many of you would love someone changing your diaper? We're now in the United States, we're selling more adult diapers than we are kid diapers. It's a truth.
That is wild.
That is a fact. And so I want you guys, I don't want to change your damn diaper. I want you guys to come in at the age of 110 being like, oh, I just finished a round of golf, or I went mountain biking, or I've been, I'm just got a spark for life still. And I believe that's possible, especially with what we've got. So yeah, thanks, Chris.
And then Patty, this is Dr. Patty De Blasio. She is a medical doctor. She loved Dr. Patty.
Yeah, she's too, talking about we talked about the immune treatments.
She's been on the show.
Immunotherapy, LDI, yeah.
But yeah, she said the vaccine has not been tested on persons with autoimmune diseases, so proceed with caution if that pertains to you. I think that's great advice.
Yeah. Yes, I think it's really important right now that, yeah, we're going to have a choice to make. Well, some of us may not have a choice like you, Julie, but you do have a choice as far as how you adapt and respond to your environment and what's coming at you externally. And so I appreciate that. Awesome. So we talked about the CERT test, right? The sit rising test. Try that out, see where you're at. For those of you who need to gain muscle, the other peptide that is just phenomenal for putting on muscle mass, as I mentioned, I put on about 15 pounds of muscle this year, which I'm really happy about. But I've been using like IGF-1, LR3, and so that's another favorite peptide. It's great for the brain, great for recovery. It works on the growth hormone. I add a little CJC 1295 and ipamorelin to that. And it's just a very powerful way of maximizing my body's ability to heal. So we call it the peptide bypass. And the peptide bypass is where you bypass all the diseases because you use these novel structures that can elicit a response to make your body a little younger than it was before and make your body function a little better without having to swallow pills and rely on your digestion solely. But you can really maximize and bypass a lot of the disease with peptides. So yeah, some phenomenal things. So as you guys are looking at, I can't do the CERT test. Well, consider getting some IGF-1 or CJC 1295. Those are some really powerful peptides. Make sure you're testing your hormones. You're looking at your inflammatory patterns. So never stop healing. I believe that your health journey, it doesn't stop. So it's not like, oh, cool, I got my 15 pounds of muscle. I'm looking good. I'm feeling better than I ever have. I think I'm done, Cade. So can I just
Don't need to exercise anymore.
yeah, I mean,
Just eat whatever you want. Eat ice cream for breakfast.
perfect. So I made it. So
Yep.
I can just let go of it's
You're
done.
good, man.
Good here.
You
Look,
got this.
yeah, don't touch
Yeah,
me.
pinky promise.
Good. We'll do a blood oath and I'm done. I made it. I'm healthy. So your health journey never stops. And here's one of the things we've got to do: defending your health and resetting your energy. That might be one of the most important things we can do with our lives. As I was thinking about this, I said, energy resets are really important. I just came out of, like I mentioned, a long training process. I mean, with Michael Burnoff, and many of you have heard Michael Burnoff. He wrote the book Average Sucks. It was really fascinating. But we were on from 9 o'clock until about 12 or 1 in the morning. I mean, he really wanted to reframe our brain, and so these were like 14-hour days. And when you go, 4 days in a row like that, it's a lot of work. And so you have to reset your energy. And the beautiful thing that he did is he gave us energy resets as we went throughout it. And then defending your health, that means when somebody comes and says, hey, it's not a big deal, just eat some snacks or whatever. I don't mind if you eat dessert here and there, but if somebody has poor lifestyle habits, the people you hang out with most, that's going to rub off on you. And so you really have to watch what you're doing with your health, because it can get away from us very quickly. And so that's what I think is a really interesting thing that we can all focus on. Kate, have you ever had to defend your health? Is that a little too strong of language, or do you think it's
No, I think it's very necessary, especially as I was going through kind of my transformation, 8+ years ago. I had to be extremely strict, and it was, sometimes you go out to eat with friends, whatever it is, and you get razzed. You can it's like, oh, you're not gonna eat that, or why are you eating that? That's like girly food, whatever. Obviously my friends are really mature, um,
they're
but no,
political?
it's but I think that's you have to kind of stand up for it and just have a purpose behind it, because that's what I was able to do, is really just plant my feet in the ground and say, no, I'm actually making some serious changes. I've already experienced this, and I think once you start seeing results and pay and people that associate with you see those results, then they start asking, what are you doing?
Yeah.
And they want what you have. Um, and so you can really influence it for the better. We're getting the
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So here's what, Julie asked, is there a point when doing these changes will be too late? Absolutely not. And so I think just the final thing, one area that I want you guys to do is you take action on your next year's goals, is to get in our 100-day challenge. Even if you're not there to burn fat, I want you to get involved with the group. And can you give us a little, she gave you the link there is challenges. So we've always got to challenge ourselves, because contrary to popular belief, health is something that you can never stop pursuing. It doesn't go on vacation. It doesn't take a rain check, and it certainly does not take shortcuts. So Julie, no matter what age you're at, no matter how healthy, how sick you may be, it's never too late. And so I want to see you guys in our challenges. So get on the 100-day challenge, and we'll be in there very soon. And so Susan, last thing, Ruth said you sell peptides at the clinic. Absolutely, Ruth. So just give us a call. Susan said, I've found over the last 4 years of changing
So
that
true.
people who care about me want me there, even with my own food. I love that. Yeah. So awesome. Okay, guys.
And
That's so cool.
and then did we answer Ruth? Ruth asked, do we sell peptides at the clinic? So we can write the prescription, and then typically we drop ship them to your house. But yeah, you'd purchase them through us.
Beautiful.
So yeah, if you're in Tucson, Ruth, we can absolutely help you. And you call us, we can do a quick consultation visit, and then we can drop ship them straight to your house.
Yeah. And can get you on my schedule, Ruth. All right. Well, that's all we have time for. This has been fun. Thanks.
Yeah, amazing, amazing content today, Reagan. Thanks so much for putting it together. Thanks everybody for joining us. Amazing show, amazing group, and we'll see you guys all same time, same place. We will be here next week, right?
Christmas
Christmas
Eve.
Eve. Yeah, we'll be here.
I've got a really special show for you guys next week. So don't miss it and get your friends and family for it. And I'll keep my language clean. No swear.
No swearing next week.
All
All
right.
right.
Love you guys.
Hey, everybody. Love you. Bye bye.